Yes.
All right, yes.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Robin Teigland. I'm originally from the United States, but I've been in Sweden for 30 years. Now, what have I been doing in Sweden for 30 years? Very much learning about new technologies, all types of technologies, and how they influence the future. This is what fascinates me. What does technology do? How does it change the way we live, the way we work, where we live, how we work, and so on? And so this is really at the core, and I'm very interactive. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'd like to know how many of you have one of these computer or one of these robots at home? Anybody? No hands? Maybe one over there? Think about what we can do with these types of robots at home. It could be really fun, but we really don't know yet, right? We don't know where we're going in terms of the future. Will we have these at home? Will we not? What does the future look like? And while we know a little bit, and while we know a little bit about what we don't know, clearly there's an awful lot of unknown unknowns, or what we don't know is much larger. How will these technologies influence? We've been hearing about so many today, right? Artificial intelligence, all about this digital twins. We have many different types of technologies. But how will they influence the way we live and work? Well, maybe if we think about this trend where we're working remotely, if we extrapolate into the future and think if we can do many things at a distance, we might end up with a future like this. This is an image from Regen Villages. What is Regen Villages? The whole idea is driven by the concept that we can create a self-sustaining village. In other words, that we can create a circular economy, we can recycle what we use, turn them into new products, we can work remotely, we can learn remotely, we can even have telehealth and be operated on from a distance. We really have everything very close. Technology can enable this if we work with it towards this direction. However, technology is also enabling this. This is our take, make, waste model, right? And if we think about AI and the focus on optimization, efficiency, we might end up with even more plastic garments being thrown away. This is a picture of Ghana. This is nothing but clothes that were not sold or that were returned. And here they are serving as food for cows, or maybe fuel for people making their dinner. This is one future that technologies could also lead us to. Another one might even look like this, where we might end up fighting over resources in deep sea mining and ending up as the project on the left, which is one from China, where they're creating a city on a great global garbage patch. Or what about the Blade Runner, where science fiction becomes science fact? Is this the type of future we want? So I ask all of you, who creates the future? Yeah, we do, right? We do, right? We're the ones who actually create the future. We're the ones who think, how do we use these technologies? Where are we going? What are our visions? And how can we lead us into a future like that? I'm going to talk you a little bit through this model that I've been working with myself, because I think if we all have to do this, then I do too. And while I'm a professor, I'm also very much saying I have to jump out and do something myself. So I'll work through this model as I'm showing you about what I've been doing, building networks across Sweden, Norway, and Portugal, starting up companies within the circular economy. Visioning, it's about thinking about what the future might hold, creating scenario building, scenario thinking, networking, building diverse networks to gather access to different resources. You might be wondering what the word serendipity means. That means by chance, and I'll talk a little bit about that. It's also about building a collective competence, coming together, bringing together all our ideas and our competence together to create this future through co-creation, exploring, and experimenting. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Now, how did it start? Well, this was me a few years back, about 4 years back, with my oldest son, TG. And we were in Peniche, surfing. We were getting out of the cold, dark north, right? Coming to Portugal to see the sun and to surf. But we're curious, and we're wondering, when you look at this photograph, what do you usually look at? You look at the people in the front, the surfers. Well, about 12 years ago, I was working a lot in researching metaverses, virtual worlds, the immersive internet. We wrote a book on this. And the person who wrote the introduction, Ted Castronova, he said, when I look at a picture, I look at the background, and I am curious, what is life like for people at the back of the postcard? What will their life look like in the future? And when we look at this village here, we think, well, what about smart cities? I live in Stockholm and in Gothenburg, where there's so much focus on smart cities. What about this? What about e-mobility? Is that coming here? And artificial intelligence, how is that influencing these people's lives? What will their lives look like? So we thought, let's go ahead and let's try to experiment with this, and let's create something, our own tech hub in Peniche, where we could invite people from different countries and we can work together and develop new scenarios, new ideas about the future. The only problem was we needed a place to do this. So we were looking and looking and looking for a piece of property, and one night we were driving by this motorcycle club. Any of you been in the Peniche Motorcycle Club? I hadn't either. We drive by, and it's midnight on Saturday night, and I am from Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know if you, Nashville, Tennessee. And I can just say, you do not go into a motorcycle club on midnight in Nashville, Tennessee on a Saturday. And I thought, no, let's go. And my partner's like, yes, let's go in. No, let's just keep going. He says, come on, what do you have to lose? Let's just go in. We'll knock on the door. We'll walk in and say, are we welcome? If they say no, we'll leave. So we did that. We knocked on the door, we walked in, and said, can we come in? People looked at us very strangely, and then somebody said, yeah, come on in. Guess how long we stayed in the club? 4 hours. We stayed there and had the most interesting discussions. Who was in the club? I had no idea. This was a serendipitous meeting. I would not be standing on this stage if I had not managed to get out of my comfort zone and go in to a different type of setting. Because who was there? It was the fishing men of Peniche, who were telling me all about their stories of how they've, fished in centuries of this, and how Peniche had been, and many other coastal communities had been very successful and very rich in terms of industry and jobs. But yet, as many of us know today, coastal communities are fighting many, many challenges. You have large-scale global fishing companies that are just, driving the small, medium-sized fishermen out of business. They can't afford these very expensive digital technologies or to upgrade their engines and get bigger and bigger boats. What do we do about artisanal fishing? This isn't just Peniche. This is something that really is around the world. So do we give up and say, well, let's do tourism? Yeah, well, that's great too. But let's think about it. Let's see about what we put our eyeglasses on. So another little quiz or task for you all here today. You're going to read one line out loud in English. Is that okay? You all ready to do that? Okay, here it comes. Here we go. So, opportunities are... One more time. Opportunities... Yes. What did you say?
Opportunities are now here.
Yeah, there we had it. Okay, one more time, everybody. Opportunities are now here. It's all a perspective of how you look at things, isn't it? We are trained to read zoom. Okay, nothing. But it depends on how you look at things. There are so many opportunities everywhere, but it's how we look at them and how we build the pieces, and it's how we go from being a problem solver to a solution finder. We have networks, we have access to networks, all the knowledge is out there. It's about how we use them to actually bring together different pieces to create a new solution. And so this is exactly what we wanted to do. Let's think about this. Can we then actually bring in digital technologies and solve the challenges that coastal communities have? Can we create a blue circular economy model? And so, yes, 4 years ago, we said maybe we could. Maybe we can use AI and drones to help the fishermen fish more efficiently, more sustainably. And then while we're at it, maybe we can train the algorithms to identify ghost nets and other fishing trash that is at the bottom of the ocean. Maybe we can start cleaning it up. And what do we do with this resource? Well, there's new technology, 3D printing, yeah, okay, and new materials, graphene. We'll mix it up and create something that maybe we could print out locally for the local needs. Coastal communities have very poor public transportation systems. This was just a model. This we call an organizing vision. It's something that brings people together to discuss around. And this is what we've been working with for 4 years, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we've been doing. This project we just presented yesterday to EEA grants. They've provided us with funding to enable us to develop an AI-enabled drone. And the idea is the drone can do surveillance and find the fish. It's not about fishing more, but it's about reducing time at sea. They have a quota system. So instead of going out there and searching for 12 hours and maybe coming home empty-handed, this way you can actually identify where the fish might be, what kind of fish, and so on. The good thing is about this is that it can be used for other functions, which is what is so great about these new technologies too. They can be multifunctional. So it can also identify litter at the bottom of the ocean. So we're moving through the circle. If we can do this, then we can think about all this material that is out there. Do you know how many tons of fishing nets are produced every single day? And how many are used and thrown away? Tons and tons and tons. In fact, these nets are gill nets. They are used once and thrown away. Where do they end up? Landfills. They're burned, maybe at the bottom of the ocean. Maybe they're just dumped somewhere. So we said, could we think circular? Can we turn them into some type of new material that we could use for 3D printing? So we've been doing this, breaking it down step by step, working with the local community to collect fishing nets. We've collected around 55 tons so far, working with different organizations to actually enable this. This is a laborious job. This morning, I was actually using this shredding machine, stuffing nets in and shredding it down. I think I still have the things here from the mask. This is also, you think, oh, you just shred it up. No, you have to separate all the different plastics. We are working very much with PA6, polyamide. It's nylon. It's a fantastic, high-quality material. Yes, I did a lot of work in virtual worlds and so on, but I think it's so important to solve the issues that we have in the real world. We continue to produce more and more. How can we use our digital technologies then to actually help us with this challenge? And so we've formed a partnership with Cabapol, a plastic compounding company here in Portugal, to make these types of pellets that can go into one of these industrial robots. How many of you have seen one of these before? This is a 3D printer. It's large-scale additive manufacturing. What you see they're doing is it's printing out a piece of furniture from our fishing nets. But it's not so easy because you have to put in other materials with the plastic to create something that will be able to come out from this nozzle. I'm not going to go too much into the details, but what we've done so far is we have created a new material called Penelon, which is now being used by a Swedish company, Ekbakken Studios. Ekbakken Studios designs furniture that are using this manufacturing method of large-scale additive manufacturing and prints out furniture from fishing nets in Portugal. But you know, this is not something that we want to continue to do, right? We want to be able to produce locally. But to do that, we also have to encourage the market and create awareness of this. So Ekbakken has worked very hard on marketing. So recently we've been in Vogue and Elle and Residence and all these different magazines because as one of the most, trends for 2023 within interior design. What's interesting is that it wasn't about the material, it was about the design. And here I think is something really fascinating because with 3D printing, right, we can customize. We can create unique objects. It's quite different than using traditional methods of production, such as injection molding or rotational molding and so on. But what I think is exciting is this, the impact. When you look at this slide here, what we've done is we have compared the CO2 emissions of material that is either virgin and produced through traditional injection molding, that's on the left. The next one is virgin materials using 3D printing, additive manufacturing. But look at the drop down here. If we use our recycled materials with either injection molding or additive manufacturing, we have a 93% drop in CO2 emissions. Most of CO2 emissions and all the impact on the climate, on the environment, comes from extraction of resources for that first time. So don't be fooled when they say it's recyclable, because it's still virgin quite often. Where are we going with this? Well, think if we can start building and 3D printing houses and things locally where we take industrial waste streams, we can transform them into materials that can be produced locally for the local market. Why not? Here's a company in Denmark that is already doing this, 3D printing houses of local waste streams, and actually not even selling them, but as a service. This is our goal. Can we create a global network of local hubs, local circular economy micro-factories, where you take in an industrial waste stream, you transform it into a material that then you can produce a product for the local market locally? This is the grand vision that we've been going after since we started. But what about the digital side of things? This is not so easy to do because there are so many different parameters. And so because of that, we're adding a whole digital layer, right? Can we actually simulate the 3D printing process? So what you see here is actually layer upon layer being put down. So you're simulating the actual additive manufacturing going on. This is not an easy task. We're working with research institutes of Sweden to do this, where we're actually looking at all the different parameters that might influence the actual product that comes out. The idea behind this is that if you can simulate it right before you go to the 3D printer, you can save time, you save resources, energy, and a lot of material. Because as of today, this manufacturing method is not so easy to work with. And I can say this material is not easy to work with. I think that's probably why I'm doing this, because it is such a complex problem to solve. It's really challenging, but it's really fun. If anybody would like to learn more about this, we have a research project called Ocean LCM, which is funded by the Swedish Innovation Agency. We're looking for partners who would like to be part of a next application. So if you'd like to be part and learn more, please let us know. Because I think this is where the real future is using digital tools, to enable us to transform and create new materials out of industrial waste streams to produce products for the local market. It'll be interesting to see where I am in a few years. I mean, this is what we've done in the past 4 years, still going after this organizing vision. But really what we've been doing along the way is, I think, also following, in my mind, this model where we start with a vision, an organizing vision that brings people together. But in order to test and look for new ideas and maybe find those pieces of the solution out there, we have to build networks across many different boundaries. They should be diverse, right? Hierarchical, organizational, geographical, cultural, you name it. We need discipline. We need to build those bridges. Be open, be curious. How many of you have met somebody new today? I would want to see everybody raising their hand. Go meet somebody new. Just go up and say, hey, what do you do? That's where the magic happens. That's how innovation happens, when you meet people outside of your networks. Go try it and see what happens. Again, what would have I done if I hadn't walked into that motorcycle club that night? But you really have to work together and build this collective competence together. Where are we going? Shared understanding. That will enable us to co-create an experiment. Round off with a few slides here. I am a social network researcher at my core. I'm fascinated by how resources travel through social networks, networks of individuals, and how that influences the future or technology or performance strategy. I asked you a question: which one of these two individuals are you, A or B? Both A and B have 5 relationships. You can't tell, can you? We are so influenced by our networks. Research is showing us more and more and more about how we are influenced by our networks. When you look at these, I can say now which one of these two individuals, say, is more innovative, can have access to more diverse resources, can be better at solution finding, seeing different ideas, signals about what the future might hold. It's B. But we also need to remember that we engage with those locally, because that's also about sense-making and bringing it back. We need to do this because if we don't, we'll end up in a world where we have a lot of collective intelligence. No one knows everything, everyone knows something, all knowledge resides in humanity, but we will not have collective competence where we are able to solve our challenges together, because it's only by building these networks with people across the world, because we are linked together by 6 degrees of separation. Actually, it's 5.7, 5.8. That's the only way that we will be able to take on our global challenges. So, I encourage you all, go out there, make new networks, and yeah, go get them. Thank you.